Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Selena Rezvani, and you're joining Women and Work Culture. This is a live stream all about helping companies make those bold bets on female talent so we can really boost women's leadership. We're talking today about what it's really like to be a top level leader, especially as a woman of color. And we're also talking about the really important role that resilience plays in that experience, right, of leading from the top. Our guest today, who we're going to get to learn so much from, I'm so excited to have her, is the awesome Phyllis A. James. Welcome, Phyllis.
Thank you, Selena. It's such a pleasure to be with you today.
I am so excited to have you, look up to you for a lot of reasons. I also want to welcome our community. We're so happy to see your faces and your names and your comments each week. I hope you'll bring them with you today. Tell us who's out there today and where you're joining from. I already see Michaela joining, Anissa from Tampa Bay, Michelle. Welcome to all of you. I want to tell you a little bit about Phyllis the Fierce. Phyllis is the founding president and CEO of Foundation for Women's Leadership and Empowerment. We call that FWLE for short. Her organization is all about equipping women, right? Preparing them for leadership excellence and furthering gender equity. I think it's safe to say we have some mutual interests for sure, Phyllis. Prior to the role Phyllis serves in today, she worked in dual roles, both as a lawyer and an executive officer over 17 years at MGM Resorts International. So she was special counsel there, but she was also an EVP, a chief diversity and chief corporate responsibility officer. Wow. Wow. In terms of the wonderful conference, the Women's Leadership Conference that FWLE puts on, she has guided the growth of that event to go from kind of a local, smaller gathering to this major development platform, which it is today for women leaders. So we are thoroughly impressed by you, Phyllis. Can't wait to dig deeper with you on a lot of these pieces and the career nuggets you bring. As we go, friends, send us your questions for Phyllis. We would love to see them. This is your shot to ask a real executive all about showing up as a leader. Right? What are those ways we show up as a leader? And a warm hello to Gemily from Turks and Caicos, Valerine from Dallas, Texas. Happy to see you back. We're covering a lot of ground today in a lot of cities and places and countries. So I want to talk first, Phyllis, about how being a woman of color has impacted your journey, your path to these top roles. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Selena, I could actually write a whole book about it and consume all of our time on just that one subject. But I want to focus this morning on three big lessons that I learned early on in my career, first starting as a lawyer. The first thing I learned right in law school was that you have to have a strong sense of your own self-worth and your own value, and you cannot let other people define your path or your goals. And I'll give as an example, when I was coming along through law school and getting ready to graduate, I had a number of people say to me, well, what are you going to do? And the traditional path then for Black lawyers was either legal aid or public defender or civil rights. There was very little precedent for Black lawyers in the corporate law arena. And so I decided I didn't go to Harvard Law School to not do corporate law. So I said, I am not going to do those traditional things. I am going to go to a big corporate law firm. And then I had even my own Black colleagues in law school say, well, why are you going to join a predominantly white Republican law firm? Of course, there were Democrats in the firm, but people focused on the negative. And I said, well, corporate law is considered the elite of the legal profession. And nobody ever asked white males, why are you going to join a corporate law firm? And I said, most of them aren't going to make partner, but they go because it's an excellent and rigorous training program for new lawyers. So I said, why shouldn't I want that too? Why shouldn't I take advantage of at least that by going to a corporate law firm? So I did that, and luckily I was successful and became the first African American partner at that law firm. The second lesson that I learned very early on is there is a double standard for people of color and for women. And so you do have to work harder, and you have to do better than your white male colleagues. It's the way that it is. It's taken generations to set that up. So there's no sense in complaining about it. And for me, I saw every assignment as an opportunity to refute the myth of white superiority. And the way you erode that myth is by being excellent in everything that you do. The third lesson I learned, and this is extremely important to me, and it's stood well for me throughout my career, is you must cultivate relationships with people who are different from you, not just people who are like you, but you must be open to relationships with people who are white as well as Black or Hispanic or what have you, from men as well as women. And I would say that the two persons who were most influential on me in my formative years as a lawyer were two white male Republicans. So remember, success requires collaborations with all kinds of people who may not be like you, whether they're your peers, people below you, or people above you.
Beautifully said. I think we're all hanging on your every word here, Phyllis. I had goosebumps listening to you, and I'm so glad to hear you defined your own self-worth, and you didn't let others do it. I know for a lot of us that can be, easy to fall into, where you're letting other people put that value on you. I want to talk about a different aspect of leadership for a minute. I've interviewed lots of C-level women, and one of the things I've heard over and over is you really need a thick skin, a kind of stamina for a leadership job, that it's not for everyone. And so my question for you is, how have you handled the pressures of being that top leader?
Well, it's very tough, and you really do have to take it a day at a time. So first and foremost, you have to manage yourself. You have to always pause and take a deep breath, regardless of what happens, and kind of bundle your emotions and regulate yourself. The second thing is, I have found, always go back to your sense of your inner compass and your inner purpose. What is it that you are trying to accomplish short term and long term? So always have that framework in mind. Cultivate that network of relationships, and always go back to your network. People that you rely on for guidance, for information, for a different perspective. Again, trying to keep yourself on an even keel. The last thing I would say is be realistic. Always focus on the positive and do what is possible in all circumstances. I had a tendency to focus on always wanting to be a perfectionist, always
Mm.
wanting to be perfect in everything that I did. And that's almost an impossibility for human beings. And it's very paralyzing if you do that. So I read once that a commentator said, strive for progress, but always aim for excellence. And that really has stood me in good stead.
That's beautifully said. And I think a healthier barometer, right, than get it perfect, get it just so, which is really hard for most of us, right? Valerine calling out success requires collaboration. She really loved that point, and happy to see faces like Azim's and Samantha's and Rebecca's too. Being resilient has become kind of this it skill. I know one study said it's one of top 5 top traits that employers look for in candidates. I'm curious from your perspective, when are the moments we need resilience most? What are those career moments?
Well, it used to be that resiliency was associated with your ability to bounce back and move ahead from a negative circumstance, such as losing a valued client or losing a competition for a new client, or not getting a promotion, or a boost in pay when you wanted to, or unexpected job loss, for instance, in a downsizing. And of course, in today's world, it's all about COVID-19 and trying
Mhm.
to overcome that. But nowadays, resiliency is associated with the ability to adapt to and prevail over any change in circumstance, whether it's due to circumstances beyond your control or whether it's the result of a voluntary decision. And I think the reason for that, Selena, is because we live in such a volatile, rapidly changing global economy that constantly throws at us new trends, new directions
Mhm.
on almost a daily basis. So, in today's world, you have to be ready to turn on a dime in almost every single circumstance every day. And I know that is really tough, but that is the nature of the modern world in which we live.
That's a great way for us to think about it. It's not this kind of nice to have skill or
No,
trait, right? It's a real must have. And from the way you put it, it got me thinking that this gives you an edge. Resilience doesn't just help you get up, it can kind of give you an edge because plenty of people around you aren't bouncing back. So when you can be the one to get from A to B quicker, it helps. Um,
that's true. That's absolutely true. And I found in my career the need to be resilient on many occasions. I'll just give you 3 examples of that. When I first became a partner in my law firm, there's a kind of proving ground in the first 3 years. And after the first 3 years, you're eligible to be considered for a salary promotion to the quote next level of, there was a points allocation system. And after my first 3 years, I did not receive that salary
mhm.
boost to my great disappointment. And so, what did I do? I had to focus on, well, what is it that they are evaluating and what do I need to do? And I did that, and I met that, and I received the boost the fourth year.
Hmm.
So you can't just um, shy away. You really have to face up to it and get to it, as I like to say. The second times I needed a resiliency were really the results of my own decision making. And it's resiliency in being open to new opportunities and taking calculated risk in your career. So I was presented with the opportunity to become the top lawyer for the city of Detroit as a result of an acquaintanceship I had with the new mayor elect of the city of Detroit. And he offered me this opportunity, which I had to think about, but I ultimately, because it was so radical, here I
Hmm.
was a partner in an elite law firm in the dream city of San Francisco, and here
Wow.
was an opportunity to become the top lawyer for a law department in Detroit, of all
Hmm.
places, a place I had really only been to once for 48 hours. And so I decided to take that post, which was a real stretch for me, even though I was already a law partner, had to go to a new city, but I did it because it gave me the opportunity to lead an internal law practice. It gave me the opportunity to contribute to the revitalization of a city that was 80% African American and had a very depressed economy. And it
Hmm.
gave me the opportunity to work for a Black mayor who was a progressive and really to do something great there. The second time I had to be resilient, and as a result of a personal choice, was when at the end of my tenure as corporation counsel for the city of Detroit, I was recruited to join MGM Resorts. I had only been to Las Vegas on two occasions. Both of those occasions, I spent 48 hours in conference rooms
Right.
negotiating legal documents. I'd never worked in the gaming industry. And again, it was an opportunity to do something different than I had ever done in my career before, moving to a new city once again, but an opportunity to stretch my professional competencies. And so those were examples of when I had to be resilient.
Wow. Well, you certainly are not afraid to go for it. That's for sure. And I think you've inspired a lot of people here to really think about taking that jump into a new area if it's going to stretch you and grow you and
Yeah.
expose you to new things. We had a great question from Valerine who said, was there a certain way you kept up your skills in a particular area to stay innovative as a leader?
Yes, I think that an important lesson I would say comes from all of this. Resiliency, of course, requires self confidence, the ability to focus on the positive, and always patience and perseverance. But her question focuses on the ability that you can cultivate throughout your career to be resilient. So you don't have to wait for that crisis moment to come about and then figure out how to meet that crisis. Throughout your career, you can always be cultivating and nurturing the things that put you in the position to be resilient. For instance, cultivating a mindset to be ready to respond to change. That is a mindset, and you can work on that all the time. The next thing is always evaluating your short and long term career goals. Work on continuous learning. What should you do in whatever your profession or industry happens to be to put yourself in a forward launching position? How can I lean forward by doing continuous education that will enhance my skills, enhance my resume, looking for those assignments and projects that let you stretch beyond your past capabilities? What is always putting you in a cutting edge position? Always be open to new opportunities. Always be looking around. If you have a setback, what can you learn from the setback so that you're treating it as an opportunity? And last but not least, Selena, I would say this: always, always focus on building that network of relationships. That is crucial to anybody in their career because your network allows you to get information and advice. It gives you perspectives that maybe you wouldn't have thought of. But the other thing I would say about your network is it can be a source of new career opportunities.
Fabulous. I love that. And I'm glad you're reminding us no, person is an island in this, and that it's not going to help you to just keep to yourself, right? You need to get the perspective of others. And I know that can help us bounce back quicker.
Right.
I want to ask you, you brought up the word setback, and I think there's a lot of interest in dealing with setbacks, right, in our careers.
Yeah.
It happens to all of us. Let's say somebody's just made a mistake or they've had a fail. What would you advise them to do to, get up and actually move on? They might be a ruminator who
Right.
really steeps in it.
Well, I live by the old adage, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And I think that our culture has taught us to fear failure as though it is the end of life. And the fact is, failure is part of the learning process. We have to be able to face failure, be able to face the facts and embrace it. And in every failure, look for the silver lining and the lesson that the failure can teach you. Figure out, what can I learn from this situation that I did not know before. So don't let a failure or a setback define you. Most mistakes in life are not career ending and certainly not life ending. So again, tap into your network, have a sounding board in a couple of people whose judgment you trust, and say, this is what I'm getting out of this. Do you agree or do you disagree? Is there something else I should be focusing on here? Always, always focus on the positive and what can you focus on that lets you embrace this in a positive way and move forward. And last but not least, I would say seek new assignments, seek new projects, seek new paths that allow you to showcase your strengths and that you have gotten something really valuable out of that negative experience or adversity, and that is going to make you a better person and a better professional.
That's so beautiful. I think you said something a lot of us needed to hear today. Maybe you've made a mistake. I know I have mistakes on my mind that I've made. And what I'm hearing from you, Phyllis, is to a degree, expect them to happen, embrace them, and find the gold nugget in them,
Yeah.
that you can do something with, that you could do better with next time. This is so helpful and really terrific. We have so many questions that we can't get to all of them from people, but I did want to ask one. We have a kind of tradition here, which is to ask our guests for a parting truth bomb, something they really want to stick in the minds of our listeners. What is that for you?
Well, there would be two answers or two parts to my answer to this question. The first I would put out as a woman leader, and that is this: to all women, cultivate self-confidence. If you read literature in the women's leadership area, it would tell you that the greatest stumbling block for most women at all levels, whether they're a CEO or whether they're an entry-level manager, is lack of self-confidence. And so I read once advice that said, be excellent in your work, but be visible in your excellence. And that is really great advice. Make sure people know that you are reliable and you can be depended upon to handle well anything that comes your way. As a leader of color, I would say this: for women of color, my advice to you would be always be true to your inner self compass, to your inner goals. You are always going to encounter someone who's a bad manager, someone who may exhibit unconscious bias. You're going to run across microaggressions and sometimes even outright bigotry. My counsel to you is, don't let anyone define your goals, shape your sense of your value, and deter you from your goals. People value authenticity, strategic thinking, and expertise at the end of the day, regardless of what your profile is. My parting comment to white women who may have greater access to development opportunities, to leaders in an organization, to the ability to exercise influence in an organization, please use your greater privilege to help a woman or a person of color by being a sponsor, a mentor, an ally, or just being a friend.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Phyllis, and to our wonderful community. What a conversation. You are a shining example to all of us, Phyllis, but especially to women of color like me. So I'm so grateful you took the time today to share some of your learnings. For all of you who want to follow Phyllis and stay in touch, you're going to see links in the show notes to her website of her organization, FWLE. They have a wonderful webinar series this fall that I'm really thrilled to get to be part of, as well as their Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn communities. So check out those links and join them. And I hope you'll stay in touch with me, right? Don't forget to stay connected. I hope you'll look at my LinkedIn learning courses on staying confident, cultivating that executive presence, that sense of motivation. Sign up to be part of my newsletter community at selinarezvani.com/sign up. And please follow me here on LinkedIn so you can be part of the tribe here. Thank you so much, Phyllis. We're in your debt. Thank you to this wonderful group who came along today from all over the globe. I hope all of you stay healthy, stay well, and lead on.
Thank you, Selena.